What's going on, everyone? My name is Benjamin Nowak, and in today's video I'm going to share with you guys the top 5 baits I would have tied on Lake St. Clair early in the season to go catch big smallmouth bass. Now when I talk early in the season, early spring, I'm talking mid 40 degrees to low 50s. A lot of times these fish are going to start pushing shallow. They're going to be the ones that move up first. They're going to be in that 6 to 11 foot of water range, so that's the depths that I'm going to be talking about with a lot of the baits that I'm featuring in today's video. And I'm also going to share with you guys a secret bait that my buddy Captain Brant shared with me the other day when I was on the water with him. So if you guys want to check that video out, I'll have it linked down in the description below. I'll also have a little pop-up that'll come out over one of my shoulders here, so you can click on it and go see that video after we're done talking about your top baits for Lake St. Clair. So we're going to start with the baits that I caught them on really well, and the first one is a lipless crankbait. Now this one here is a ½ ounce 6-cent snatch, but the one that I was throwing is actually a Dual Realis Vibration 68, and I'll show you that here in just a second. It's a 3/4 ounce bait. But the way that I was fishing this was kind of unique. Instead of burning it along like you would traditionally fish a lipless crankbait, I was casting it out and fishing it similarly to a blade bait, which is also like a combination lure. You could either fish a lipless or a blade bait, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But I was casting it out, letting it fall all the way to the bottom, and then just using slow rod movements to lift the bait up off the bottom and feeling the vibration of that bait. And a lot of times when I'd lift that bait and it fell back to the bottom, it just wouldn't get there. That fish would be on it, and that fish would be eating it. The rod that I was throwing that on is an Arc crankbait rod. It's a 7/4 medium heavy moderate rod, and the reason I like that is because it can make really long casts, and because it's a composite rod with a moderate action, it helps keep those smallmouth pinned when they go to throw the bait. And the reel that I was throwing is a Lew's BB1 Pro 16-pound Sunline Sniper fluorocarbon. This bait here is a Dual Realis Vibration 68. Now this isn't the exact color. I actually cast the exact color off, but it's a 3/4 ounce lipless style vibration bait. And I was taking this and I was making long casts with it and just barely lifting it off the bottom. I was fishing it very similarly to a blade bait. And the color that I was throwing is called the Tool Perch. The Tool Perch looks like a goby, looks like a lot of things crawling around there down on the bottom, and it just catches a lot of fish for me. And I fished it very, very slowly, and those fish were choking it. That one had it like gone, like couldn't see the bait anymore, gone. Now an alternative for you traditional smallmouth guys would be just your standard blade bait. Now this is a chartreuse painted blade bait, but a blade bait works really well when that water temp is less than 55 degrees. So if you guys have blades in the boat, don't be afraid to throw a blade bait. It will catch big smallmouth anytime that water is cold. So this is an alternative to throwing a lipless crankbait as a blade. That's basically how I'm fishing the lipless anyways, so blade bait is a very effective tool in that cold water. So bait number 2 is a Ned rig. A Ned rig or a tube, either of them work great. The reason I like the Ned rig is that it gets a lot of bites. It catches a ton of fish, but it also catches a lot more smaller fish than a tube does. A tube is just really good at going out and catching big ones. A Ned rig will catch both big and small fish. This is a Z-Man Ticklers bait. It's a Dick's exclusive, but you're getting it in your first Monster Bass box if you guys are signed up for that. And I have it on a Berkley 1/4 ounce half head. That's basically the Berkley version of the Ned rig head. The setup I'm throwing it on is an Arc 7-foot Tharp Series medium power rod. Lew's custom speed spin reel, 3000 size with 15-pound braid to 8-pound fluorocarbon leader. Now, this is the same setup I would throw a tube on. I'm going to be throwing like a 3/8 or a ½ ounce tube. I want that bait on the bottom. Bottom contact is key this time of year, and that tube is going to get you a lot of bigger bites. Like I mentioned, the Ned rig will get you a lot of bites, but a tube just has a little bit bigger profile, and it tends to catch a lot bigger fish. My buddy Brant was catching all of his fish on a tube with the exception of a couple on a crankbait, and the tube just seemed to get a lot bigger bites than the Ned rig did. So if you want to go out and just chase bigger fish, you can throw this tube around and get a lot of big bites, but the Ned rig I just think is going to get you more bites dragging along down there on the bottom. This color here is the Shiz by Cruncher's Baits. It's my favorite tube color other than Toad Teaser, which is very similar. And if I'm throwing a Ned rig, I'm probably going to be throwing like a Green Pumpkin or a Drew's Craw. Now bait number 3 is also kind of a combination bait, and it's either a swim bait or an Alabama rig. Now this swim bait right here is a Kitech in the smallmouth candy color or smallmouth killer color. And this is a Rains Rock Vibe Shad in Green Pumpkin. Now the reason I'm showing you 2 different colors is because this smallmouth killer color, these traditional IU colors, are going to be better for cleaner water. When that water is a little bit cleaner, this color I'm going to, when that water is a little bit dirtier, which it typically is in the spring, a green pumpkin color is just going to catch a lot of big fish, and it's going to stand out a little bit better in that dirtier water. So I'm going to be throwing a swim bait around those same areas that I'm throwing the tube, and the same areas I'm throwing that little lipless, but I'm going to be able to fish it a little bit faster, cover a little bit more water, and figure out where those fish are. It's going to pick off the more aggressive smallmouth. Now, if you're in your own boat, and the reason I say this, if you're in your own boat, bring an Alabama rig. Now, maybe your boater won't mind, but an Alabama rig is a hard bait to have as a co-angler. Now, this is a 7-wire Frenzy Bait sniper rig, and here in Michigan we can have 5 hooks. So if you're on St. Clair, you can have 5 hooks. Run 2 dummy hooks up here on top, run 2 dummy baits that have no hooks, just a screw lock, and then run 5 hooked baits. You run an 1/8 ounce across the middle. The 3 in the middle are an 1/8 ounce, and the bottom 2 are a 1/4. That'll keep that bait running true. You can run 7 wires, and it just tends to get a lot of bites. It's something not a lot of people are going to be throwing, and it catches a lot of big fish. So if you're in your own boat, or your co-angler, or your boater doesn't mind, throw an Alabama rig. It's a little bit different. It's going to draw a lot of big bites from a lot of big bass, especially early season. For those of you guys that know me really well, bait number 4 should come as no surprise. It is a crankbait. I love to throw a crankbait for smallmouth. This is a DT10. Like I mentioned, I'm going to be fishing between like 6 and 11 foot of water. DT10 is a great bait. This is a Rapala bait, and it just catches a lot of fish. It's something a little bit different. A lot of guys are throwing baits that have a lot of rattles in them. The DT10, totally silent. I just think it gives those fish a little bit different sound profile down there in the water, and can attract some bites from fish that other guys are missing. So this is a Rapala DT10. The other bait I'm going to be throwing is similar to a Wiggle Wart. This is a 6-cent Lures Curve 55. You have the Rock Crawler, you have the Strike King 3XD. Just something that dives down to about 10 or 12 foot, and you can fish it slowly along the bottom. These baits do great around rock, which is what a lot of people like to target early season around the mile roads. So basically throwing a Wiggle Wart, Rock Crawler, a Curve 55, something like this will get you a lot of bites as well. The colors I'm going to throw are pretty traditional craw patterns, traditional perch patterns, maybe something with a little chartreuse in it. My buddy Brant actually caught a 5.5 the other day on a Strike King 3XD, and like a craw pattern with a chartreuse belly, green tomato or something, caught a 5.5 on it. So a crankbait works really well on rock this time of year. My last not secret bait, bait number 5, is a Dual Realis 110 jerkbait. Now, a 110 size jerkbait just gets a lot of bites anywhere, catches a lot of big smallmouth. When that water warms up in that 50-degree range, a jerkbait is going to catch them. So don't be afraid to throw a jerkbait and move it along pretty quickly. It's going to catch a lot of big fish early season. Color patterns are going to stay pretty traditional smallmouth patterns, sort of that olive back, these translucent or slightly opaque sides. Just really catch fish all across the country. You can throw those a little bit crazier colors, the purple backs with chartreuse bellies, but this is the one that I'm going to be throwing most of the spring. Has just a hint of chartreuse on the side there, and it catches a lot of big smallmouth. Now I know the bait that all of you guys have been waiting for is the secret from my buddy Brant, and I'm going to share it with you guys. And if you guys enjoy it, go over check Brant's page out, because he catches a lot of giants on this bait in the spring right here. It's a little hair jig. Now Brant fishes this in the same area as I'd fish a Ned rig, and he basically casts it out there and floats it down. He fishes it super slowly. This is an 1/8 ounce. You can fish kind of up to a 1/4, but I wouldn't go any heavier. You want it to float down, and it catches a lot of those suspended smallmouth. The smallmouth this time of year will suspend just off the bottom, suspend up slightly. When you throw a black hair jig like this one, it's going to float down to that fish, and they're going to come up and smash it. So Brant loves to throw this bait around rock when those fish are kind of lockjaw, not eating anything else. This little 1/8 or 1/4 ounce hair jig will catch a lot of big smallmouth bass. And this is a secret little bait, so I hope it helps you catch a lot of big fish. So if you guys enjoyed this video, do me a huge favor, hit that subscribe button down below. Check out all these baits, link down in the description below. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll answer each and every one of them. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you catch a lot of big fish on Lake St. Clair this year, as well as all around the country. And as always, Thank you for watching. Take care. Tight lines. God bless. Pursue your passion.